She tore off a piece of tape and sealed her mouth. Then she put a plastic bag over her head. She sealed it tightly around the opening to suppress her instinct to survive. She handcuffed her own hands behind her back and lay quietly on the floor. The air gradually ran out. The plastic bag pressed against Betsy's face. The suffocating sensation made her struggle in pain. Betsy wasn't doing this to end her life. She was doing it to save a man who had been sentenced 6 years ago for rape and murder. The prisoner's name was David Gale. He had once been a well-known philosophy professor at a university, gentle and intelligent in daily life. He had allegedly killed his colleague Constance 6 years earlier. His methods were brutal and shocking. Soon after, David was arrested. He offered no explanation at the time of his arrest. He was ultimately sentenced to death and endured 6 years in prison. But 5 days before his execution, he suddenly recanted, claiming he was not the killer but had been framed. The media clamored to interview him. He only agreed to speak with a New York magazine and demanded $500,000. The magazine's owner agreed, knowing the story was extremely valuable. David made a strange request. He insisted that Betsy, the female reporter, be the one to interview him. Betsy didn't understand why, but with time running out, she and her assistant rushed to Texas. Along the way, they reviewed David's case files. After learning about the case, Betsy became even more suspicious that David was the culprit. There were traces of him at the scene. His DNA was found in the victim's body. Neighbors had witnessed the events of that day. What they didn't expect was how shocking the truth would be, something they would never forget for the rest of their lives. By nightfall, they noticed a pickup truck following them. In the darkness, the man glanced at them before driving away. The next morning, they arrived at the prison. Only 4 days remained until David's execution. Without resting, Betsy asked him why he had specifically requested her. David said it was because she had once protected the privacy of a minor offender. Then he began to recount the past. 6 years ago, David's class had been repeatedly interrupted by Berlin, who often arrived late. Berlin was facing expulsion due to insufficient credits. After class, she directly made David an offer he found hard to refuse. She said that if he gave her the credits, she would do anything for him. David refused the girl's temptation, but that refusal marked the beginning of his descent into darkness. That evening, David attended a party. A colleague asked about his wife, putting David in an awkward position. The couple spent little time together, and his wife often traveled to Spain, claiming her father, an ambassador, needed her there. But David knew she had already built a new life there. For his son's sake, he didn't expose her. Drunk, David went to the bathroom. There, he suddenly found Berlin standing behind him. She came up to him, and under the influence of alcohol, he lost his self-control. They had a sexual encounter. Berlin demanded that David tear her clothes and bite her body. David thought she was just seeking excitement. He didn't realize that the incident would have grave consequences, enough to completely ruin his life.